Good afternoon, everybody. It's Tuesday, April 8th, 2025. I have all your stories for your rush hour ride home. And on today's episode, we'll be discussing the Full House being sold in San Francisco for a whopping amount of money. And also, sadly, we'll report on the nightclub roof collapse from the Dominican Republic. Very scary situation that unfortunately led to a lot of tragedy. And Miss Rachel is under the microscope as an organization wants her investigated by the government. Is there any merit to this story? Spoiler, there isn't. But I'll also be discussing White Lotus without any spoilers. So we'll share some beef from White Lotus as the creator is now slamming the since removed composer. Also, from one dramatic storyline to another, Justin Baldoni's got a new movie out. No, not as an actor, but as a producer. His Wayfarer Studios is receiving great reviews for this new movie. I'll describe that. And also, we'll round it up with another ongoing discussion about the crazy tariffs, how it's rocking the economy, and also a talk about immigration. I think a lot of these tariffs are set to go into effect tonight, tomorrow morning. So uncertain times indeed. We'll be here to discuss all of this and more. It's all happening right now on The Rush. All right, the pop culture story of the week has been White Lotus. The finale was Sunday night on HBO. And here we have the Today Show, no spoilers, discussing how it actually broke records for the most rated episode of The White Lotus. Have a listen.
Up the White Lotus. Let me just start by saying this to all of you out there.
Please
Popstar
don't.
is, we are a spoiler-free zone.
Yeah, that's nice.
This is about the ratings and nothing to do with the plot.
Yeah,
So
but that tsunami was incredible.
if you haven't had a chance to watch the last episode, you might be the only one. Sunday night's drop, season 3 finale broke records for the series. 6.2 million viewers tuned in. It was the most watched episode of that show to date. And creator Mike White already teasing season 4, saying there's always room for more murders in the White Lotus.
They're releasing dire wolves throughout the next one.
I love a good dire wolves comeback, the callback there. So yeah, White Lotus. And by the way, can we normalize? I understand, spoilers are supposed to be, there's a window, right? 24 hour. You got a 24-hour window to watch this show. If it's must-see TV like this, you don't get a whole week before people want to talk about it. But either way, I posted on the Rush Hour's Instagram page an infographic with White Lotus. So if you want to discuss what you think of the finale, you can do it there. But we're going to talk about other aspects of White Lotus. Here is one of the actors from the show from the Dirty Blender scene. Now, if you don't understand what's going on here, I don't want to spoil it, but he drank from a blender, but he didn't wash it first. It was a big plot hole in White Lotus because everyone's like, why didn't you rinse it out? Who drinks from a dirty blender? Have a listen.
Why would you make a shake out of a dirty blender?
Okay. So it's been about 12 hours, and I've gotten this question probably 1,000 times already.
Yeah.
Here's my answer, is that I was expecting that Saxon had made a protein shake in it. I didn't know. I thought it was just leftover protein. So I'm like, you know what? A little extra protein never hurt anybody.
Okay, all right. Oh, that's
I'm not
good.
that much of an idiot.
Okay, yeah. So he already made it that morning. And
Yeah.
it's Saxon's leftover
Of course.
All right, so there it is. And again, there's going to be a lot of pieces to White Lotus. It's almost like how Lost, when Lost ended, there was all these plot holes that never got firmed up. And that's because when you shoot these shows, your script isn't necessarily like picture locked and perfect. You have to kind of move around with things. Maybe there's a delay in episode 3 and it changes. You got to scrap something for episode 5. So there's a lot of plot holes. But either way, this had nothing to do with the plot. But White House creator Mike White also starred in Survivor, the TV show, says the composer quitting was a bitch move. So the White Lotus, the theme song was like very popular, and I guess the creator says, well, maybe it got to the composer's head. Have a listen.
What happened to you with this guy who makes the music is great on the show? I mean, it is just so fucking eerie and weird, and I don't even know what's going on. But the guy who makes the music was giving you a hard time, and you got what happened there?
Oh man, I think I honestly don't know what happened, except now I'm reading his interviews because he decided to do some PR campaign about him leaving the show. Yeah. And reading the interviews, I just realized I don't know. I just don't think he respected me. I think he basically he like wants people to know that he's edgy and dark, and I don't know, like I watch reality TV. I don't know what he's, but so I realized like, cause we never really even thought, I don't know what he's talking, he's supposed to be feuded. I don't think I ever had a fight with him except maybe some emails, but it was just basically like me giving him notes, like I just don't think he liked to have to go through the process of getting notes from me or wanting revisions or whatever.
And by the way, this is the same issue that Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni were feuding over. When you're the boss of a show, you have to be in charge and tell other creatives, hey, I like that, but it didn't really fit the tone. And creative people, God bless us, we get very defensive when we feel like our art is being attacked. How dare you? And if you're a composer, you have to create your art, but in the confines of what they want. So Mike White, if he says, well, that edgy scene, we're not quite leading up to that yet. Can you add some more timpanis? We need, oh God, and then you get these blows. And of course, with Ryan Reynolds and Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni, the criticism was that Justin Baldoni would give a note to Blake Lively, and she would, in her mind, again, this is my sort of interpretation of what's going down, think, oh, I'm way more successful. I've done this for so much longer. I know how to shoot a movie. These notes clearly cannot be good. And again, it leads to friction on the set. And speaking of friction, Madonna and Elton John end a decades-long feud. I mean, just in the nick of time, right? Have a listen.
There's an inspiring update on the music icon's decades-long feud. The Material Girl just sharing this nice snap from SNL over the weekend, revealing she has made amends with the Rocket Man, who's been very critical of her vocal performances over the years. Madonna writing in the caption, we finally buried the hatchet. When I met him, the first thing out of his mouth, this was at SNL, was, forgive me, and the wall between us fell down.
Oh, there it goes. If Elton John and Madonna can settle their differences, can't we all just get along? All of these warring nations fighting for power and resources. Can't we all just get along? And here's a sad story. There's really no winner in this story. Dominican Republic nightclub roof collapses, 18 dead. The tragedy was captured on video. I'm not going to share it with you. There was former Major League Baseball players. There was a mayor. There was a lot of, it's just, whenever something like this happens, it's horrible. We had, in my home state of Rhode Island, a fire that killed 100 people or so, the Station nightclub fire. And these, nightclubs they're literally just, they're not where you want to be if something bad happens, because just the amount of volume that people pack in there. But so sadly, hopefully that death count doesn't go up any higher than that. And again, no clue if they'll do any sort of structural engineering look as to why this happened, but a sad story nonetheless. Well, the iconic home from the hit show Full House has sold for a whopping $6 million. Cut it out. I mean, this is absolutely insanity. We live in a time where a normal middle-class American cannot buy a home at a reasonable price. You can't do it. You cannot do it. Maybe before 2020 you could, but the whole system is so incredibly broken right now. Now, just to do the math on this home that sold for $6 million, back in 1990 when Full House took place, it had a price tag of $725,000. All right, nice Victorian home. It's on a hill. Doesn't even come with a driveway, right? But in today's world, due to inflation, that $725,000 would be $1.5 million. And yet that just goes to show that these home prices are going up at an insane level. It's going up 4 to 5 times more than inflation. And we've got our boomer parents, no offense to them, saying, oh, when I was your age, I worked a second job. It's like, listen, you bought a home for $13,000 in the 1960s, all right? You have no idea what the crisis is like because you bought a home, you took equity out, you bought a couple Airbnbs. It basically works for itself. I've paid more money in student loan interest than a lot of people that are over the age of 60 paid for their first home. And no amount of Postmates or second or third job is going to change things. Well, you could get a job at the local Starbucks and a Target. Thank you, but no thank you. The system has to be changed through some sort of reform. You got to get private equity so that people can't be investing in homes in sort of the financial financial sector and maybe have some sort of additional tax on Airbnbs and people that own more than, I don't know, 3 to 5 properties. I mean, we have a crisis out there. My generation, elder millennials, I'm turning 40 in a couple weeks. Oh boy, we have spent collectively, like me alone, my wife and I have spent $250,000 on rent. Goodbye. And like, renting's okay if that's what you want to do, but so many people don't rent because they want to. They rent because they can't get the credit score needed or the down payment needed to buy a home. And with interest rates being at current rates, 80 to 90% of my mortgage payment, who the hell can afford this? You know? So either way, I think it's crazy out there. And I think this is the type of stuff that we need our political leaders to be speaking about, right? Medicare for all and paid family leave, like these types of helping out the veterans, having food stamps, but also trying to find a way to make home prices reasonable. No, not just rent prices, home prices, buying property. Getting really incentivized ways for first-time home buyers to get a foot literally in the door. Now, we have other news in the Full House world. Jodie Sweetin, the middle child, says we effing hate Donald Trump. Listen, she's allowed to protest and do whatever the hell she wants because her older sister from the show, Jodie Sweetin, she's kind of like, I don't know if she's MAGA or just Republican. I don't really know what she is. She loves the culture war. But what I love about Full House is you've got a mixed family. You got the Greek guy, John Stamos. He's living in the roof, singing with the Beach Boys, the roof. He's living in the attic. And then you've got, Aunt Becky there with them. Dave Coulier's, doing record deals in the basement. They're all over the place, right? You got you got Kimmy Gibbler. I had a thing for Kimmy Gibbler. Either way, point is they're like a normal melting pot family where they've all got different opinions of what's going on in the world. And John Stamos actually today had to defend himself for emceeing an event at Mar-a-Lago. Says it wasn't a political event. He was there to, MC an event that was the Palm Beach Ray of Hope Gala. He, whatever. So at this point, I'm just like, whatever. Do what you want with your time. But again, Candace Cameron says she's excited that faith is making a comeback. Let God's will be done. Well, was it God's will that ICE would be rounding up mothers with their children's? A mom and 3 children were detained by ICE and taken to Texas. Well, now they're being returned to New York, officials say. Oopsies. But what sort of damage does that do to the child that was rounded up and taken to a different state, all while the mom was going through the proper systems set up to get legal citizenship? And again, we were told that ICE would be focusing on dealing with situations that involved gang members and violent criminals and drug dealers. Well, also moms and their children. And for whatever reason, there's still people out there, even in my comment section, that are saying, hey, this is the mandate. This is what people asked for. This has nothing to do with the economy. This is all like they're just trying to hit their quota. They promised they'd get rid of X amount of people, and they can't find some of the. It's like, look, the rules are the rules. If you've committed a crime, sure, be deported. But now they're just looking for people. Nah, I don't buy it. All right, well, let's go to the box office news here. Minecraft movie shatters box office expectations with record-breaking $163 million opening weekend. Jack Black making a huge comeback. The guy's been around forever. So, that's how you print some money. But in other box office news, we go to Justin Baldoni. A Nice Indian Boy is his new movie. It's a limited release. It is a rom-com of the LGBTQ plus demographic, which, by the way, sadly, these types of movies don't always get mainstream success when it's a non-heterosexual love story. But the reviews are really good, and I don't know if this is inflated at all because of the climate around Baldoni with his fan base. It's got a 95% popcorn meter, which I always prefer what the audience has to say versus what critics have to say, because the audience, I think I relate more to, did they like it or did they not? And that's with 50 plus ratings. But with 36 plus reviews, the critics actually give it a 97% score, and it's a limited release right now. So if you're not able to watch this in the movie theaters, I'm sure it'll make its way to the streaming services relatively soon. Justin Baldoni is credited as a producer here, and also so is, of course, his Wayfarer Studios. So regardless as to what happens with Justin Baldoni as an actor, as he's been dropped by WME and having all these issues. Regardless of that, as a producer, he's really doing a good job, and Wayfarer Studios is on fire. I mean, It Ends With Us was a smash hit when it comes to box office. It made so much more money than it cost to make, right? It cost like $20+ million to make, and it made nearly $250 million. I mean, that's a cash machine. So Justin Baldoni, Wayfarer Studios, congrats on this success. All right, let's move it. And by the way, we are expecting Wednesday, Thursday, Friday to be super busy in the Baldoni universe, as we'll get responses to motions and we'll have a lot of content to sift through. Wild story here being shared by the New York Post. YouTube star Miss Rachel should be investigated for spreading Hamas propaganda over posts about Gaza kids, anti-Semitism group tells Attorney General Bondi. Now, I'm going to break this down for you guys as much as I know about it, but just on the title alone, I'm always skeptical. One of the ways that the government right now is trying to silence protesters is calling them Hamas supporters. We saw it on our own podcast, as I'm receiving 1-star reviews from people calling me like a terrorist supporter. This is absolute insanity, and I won't stand for it. And we're going to correct this every single time we see it. Now, we'll look into Miss Rachel. She's like the Mr. Rogers for kids, right? She's like a huge YouTube star, and again, I don't know anything about her other than she's wildly popular. I'm not letting my son watch her because he's 11 months old, and we're doing no screens, at least for the first couple of years. And then maybe we'll work something in here or there. But I'm not really, but that's a whole nother story. No shame for people that have different ideologies. But spreading Hamas propaganda. Now, Hamas is a terrorist organization that committed an atrocious crime on the Israeli people that led to, some 1,300 deaths, kidnappings, rape, torture. I mean, absolute insanity in the fear that was instilled in the ongoing war that dates back literally generations, right, at this point, this sort of Holy Land war. And now what we're seeing, though, is people that speak out against the response from the Israeli government are being called anti-Semitic, which I think most rational people can argue that you can't clump everybody into anti-Semitic if they want peace, right? And people say, well, that's very idealistic of you to want peace, but it's way more complicated. And it's like, well, what are we supposed to do? Just continue to let women and children be killed because of what? And of course, Hamas has been accused of hiding their weapons and their people underneath schools and hospitals and things like that. And that might very well be true. But in the modern world of 2025, there must be a solution to this war that is not just destroying an entire group of people. There must be a solution. YouTube top toddler whisperer Miss Rachel should be investigated over whether she's being paid to spread Hamas-aligned propaganda for her posts about the deaths of kids in Gaza. A major anti-Semitism group tells Attorney General Pam Bondi. Well, does that mean I should be investigated? Like I've got any motive other than no one wants to see the death and destruction going on? Miss Rachel, named Rachel Griffin Accurso, has become the modern equivalent of Mr. Rogers, educating and entertaining millions of young kids with her Songs for Littles streaming shows, which have been viewed more than 10 billion times. The Jewish civil rights watchdog group Stop Anti-Semitism said Miss Rachel is not so sweet. Stop Anti-Semitism, which, again, I think we should definitely stop anti-Semitism. I think you can want anti-Semitism to stop and also want to stop a war that is going on. It takes issue with multiple posts Miss Rachel made about the condition of children in the Gaza Strip during the war, alleging that the content is either debunked or disputed by Israel. The group says the posts are anti-Israel and are meant to inspire pro-Hamas sympathies among young kids. Given the vast sums of foreign funds that have been directed toward propagandizing our young people on college campuses, we suspect there is a similar dynamic in the online influencer space. We urge you and your office to investigate whether or not Miss Rachel is being removed remunerated, to disseminate Hamas-aligned propaganda to millions of followers, as this may violate the Foreign Agents Registration Act. In the letter to Bondi, the group said Miss Rachel, who once focused solely on catering to children, has been incorporating Hamas-like propagated images and stories into her content. And here she is saying, this is a prayer for children in Gaza. Please stop hurting them. And she also shared this. My friends Celine and Sila, in what used to be their home in Gaza, they deserve to live in a warm, safe home again. They deserve to be children. 1 week ago from whenever this was taken. And again, this is being accused by this one group of spreading Hamas propaganda, as if it is not true that this war has tragic results. And again, there are other wars where you're seeing the hardships play out, but in a world where we should be able to use technology to do precision strikes and make sure that there is not collateral damage, that's just not the case. I mean, here's a simple Googling on Wikipedia, which again, I don't take this as fact, but as of March 4th, 2025, 50,000 people, 48,000 Palestinians, and 1,700 Israelis have been reported killed in the Gaza war, according to official figures of the Gaza Health Ministry, as well as 166 journalists and media workers, 120 academics, and over 224 humanitarian aid workers, a number that includes 179 employees of UNRWA, which I believe is the organization that was accused of being pro-Hamas. Again, I can't vet any of this, and you might say, well, of course the Gaza Health Ministry might be skewing the numbers, but either way, it's a non-zero number of the amount of women and children being killed on either side of the borders. A study found and verified fatalities from 3 independent sources found that 70% of the Palestinian killed in residential buildings or similar housing were women and children. So what are we supposed to do? As content creators, as advocates for me as an anti-war advocate, what am I supposed to do? Not cover stories when we hear people that, when you see videos of children carrying their brothers and sisters to safety or going weeks or months without humanitarian aid because it's blocked from coming in. When we see an absolute war zone right here and suffering, what are we supposed to do? Well, some will say, I guess, get investigated by the attorneys general for trying to use their platform to put an end to it. I'll tell you this, unless there's more to the story that I don't know about, I just enjoyed Miss Rachel a little bit more, seeing that she's able to use her platform in a way that will generate hate in her direction. But know deep down in her intuition, she's doing the right thing, which is to let the world know what's happening. And yes, you get a 1-star review and you get called a terrorist sympathizer. Yes, you get called anti-Semitic. Those things inevitably happen when you take a stance. But you also get 10 times the amount of people in your DM saying, thank you so much for speaking out about this. Are we going to look back when I'm of old age and say, why the hell did we not do anything with the atrocities that were happening right in front of our eyes? That's really up to us to decide how we go forward. All right, let's take a quick break. We'll come back with a couple more stories of the day. All right, we like beef, we like mess. Elon Musk calls Peter Navarro truly a moron and dumber than a sack of bricks. All right, say what you want about Elon Musk, but he's not afraid to tell you his opinion on things. Well, Peter Navarro, as we shared a few days ago, lied about having this insider who said why tariffs were good. He had that Ron Vero. Remember Ron Vero? He was like his source, right? Well, it turns out Ron Vero was an anagram, was basically his last name. So he made that up. And now I guess Elon Musk doesn't want his whole company going down over some jabroni. Have a listen.
This is a behind-the-scenes rivalry that's now exploding into public view between Elon Musk and Peter Navarro, 2 very different wings of the Trump administration internally. I do now have a reaction to all this from Caroline Leavitt, the White House press secretary. I just spoke to her a couple of moments ago. Her reaction to the statement from Elon Musk calling Peter Navarro truly a moron and dumber than a sack of bricks is whatever. We are the most transparent administration in history, expressing our disagreements in public. So clearly, the attitude from the president and from the White House more broadly is, sort of a boys will be boys attitude here that you get from that particular statement from Caroline Leavitt, that these two people disagree, they're disagreeing in public, and the president is getting a range of views in terms of all the inputs as he considers where to go with this trade war, guys.
Yeah, I mean, look, to David's point, like Navarro took a shot at Musk on the air in response to a shot, I think, that was taken at him. One of them is a CEO that operates a business that does a lot of business in China and around the world, and the other is a hawk on trade. So right. I think it represents, how a lot of CEOs are feeling what Musk is channeling.
All right, so either way, what are we going to do? Cry over the billionaires fighting? I'm not. Apple, and again, here's the problem with tariffs. Is what you're finding out is like you put tariffs on China, so then they move, they end up moving their factory to Malaysia, and then they ship things here. Countries will do whatever they can for their bottom dollar, and it doesn't mean they're going to move their factories to the United States. Here is Apple finding a loophole, a new strategy to possibly save some money. Rather than ship their phones from China, they're going to ship them from India. Ooh.
Apple may have found a way to soften the blow of President Trump's steep new tariffs on Chinese imports. The Wall Street Journal is reporting that the tech giant is expanding efforts to ship iPhones to the U.S. from India. Here's the reason. Trump's renewed tariff package puts at least a 54% duty on Chinese goods, but for India, the pain is a bit less, 26%. The move is a short-term strategy, while Apple seeks a longer-term exemption from all the tariffs. Apple may have found a way to solve.
And by the way, my short-term strategy is getting a screen protector on my phone because I can't afford a new phone at this point. Oh my, although the resale value on this is going to be great. What world do we live in? This is ridiculous. And again, we're finding out tomorrow how many of these tariffs are actually going to happen versus how many are negotiating techniques. Because here's the deal, right? If a tariff is just a negotiating technique, then it's damaging the American people. The collateral damage is we're going to pay more in price. We saw a graphic of Fabletics. When you buy something at Fabletics right now, it'll show you the taxes and then the tariff. So they're actually showing you the price you're paying extra. That money goes to the U.S. government. So sure, it's going to give a little bit money back to the U.S. government, but they're just cutting taxes for the ultra wealthy. So if you want to buy a T-shirt that comes from Vietnam, it's going to cost you more money, and that extra amount of money is going towards the people who are now going to pay less in taxes. It ain't going to fill in the potholes at your in your local town. It's just not going to happen. So either way, here's Trump's top trade rep. The second rounds of tariff will go into effect at midnight tonight. Have a listen to this.
Will higher tariffs go into effect tomorrow as announced?
Senator, yes, they're scheduled to go into effect. We are having negotiations with all kinds of countries at this time. The president's fixed in his purpose. The nature of the emergency that I discussed earlier is not something we can wait on anymore. So we will have the president's plan go into effect, and we're coupling that with immediate negotiations with our partners as they seek to.
So it's not a question.
So what is the emergency? The stock market 80 days ago was the highest it's ever been. Now, look, I understand there's a lot of problems in this country and the majority of Americans don't have money invested in the stock market. I understand. We speak about all those problems. But let's not break something and then say it's an emergency to fix it, right? That's kind of the big issue. And they say they're negotiating with all kinds of countries. Oh, the penguins in McDonald Island? Like, what do you mean? Are these tariffs meant to bring jobs back here? Because if that's the case, they should be tariffs. It's like, if you want to do the old F around and find out, put your feet in the sand and live or die by these tariffs. But we know that these 81% tariffs, and I think the Chinese tariffs are up to over 100% retaliatory tariffs. We know that's not going to happen. So what are you going to do? Negotiate it down to 1%? It's just like the tariffs you were putting on Canada because of the fentanyl that was coming in over the Canadian border, right? They were sneaking it through the snow. They were skiing it into the U.S. or whatever. We know that those negotiating techniques really led to only superficial returns for the U.S., but what can they possibly get here that is going to be worth tanking the market?
Question is something being scheduled. You're committing this morning that they're going to go into effect.
This is what the president has said, Senator.
For how many countries? I understand it's over 50.
That are negotiating with us. We have about 50 that have come to speak with us, and I'm constantly talking to my counterparts I have staff right now at USTR meeting with others, and we will have the tariffs in place. And if the other countries can come to an agreement on reciprocal trade, then that's something that the president can consider. I don't want to prejudge the negotiations or the president's decision, but that's what we're doing.
Now, don't forget, there has been several countries that have zero tariffs. So this whole reciprocal tariffs thing is hogwash, right? It's absolutely insane. The more you look into it, the more you realize, I don't think they have any idea what the hell they're doing. Because even if you get the tariffs down to 1%, it's not going to pull new companies back into the United States. The way that you bring companies back into the United States is building the infrastructure for those companies, which is what the CHIPS Act was doing. The act that Joe Biden had signed was bringing this giant chip industry back from, where is it, South Korea, wherever, Taiwan, wherever it was from, back into the United States. Bring it back with incentives that you're going to buy products here. So you don't bring it back by taxing the American people. This is a real old way of thinking that doesn't work in the global economy, not to the levels that they're trying to do it anyway. All right, I mean, again, a lot to cover, a lot of things going on in our world, from Full House to Gaza to tariffs. I mean, what else do you want? Unbelievable stuff. We'll continue to try to hold the fort down and cover this. If you like the podcast, please consider a 5-star review. The more we speak the truth of what's going on out there, the more you got to deal with people that really don't like it. And that's okay, as long as we meet them with our own support. So continue to share it with like-minded individuals. We appreciate all of you. I got to tell you, the podcast has never had more views or downloads. The last couple of weeks has been absolutely insane for the audio version of the podcast. And of course, as we know, the YouTube has popped off the charts. So we're doing something right. And there is a market to hear these stories, and we'll continue to share it twice a day. I'm Dave Neal. We'll see you in the morning. This is The Rush.